Hope you never hear this. You probably can't deal with it. Hope your family's still doing great. I miss them every Sunday. Friends probably hate me. Wish you never met me. Fuck a happy ending. Since you left, it's 1, 2, 3. Now he's coming in close to me. I can't sleep, cause he's where you're supposed to be. And he's getting all the songs you used to get. He's getting all the words inside of my head.
오.
You probably can't deal with it. Hope your family's still doing great. You're Saturday, but it's still your side. Now I'm up all night. I got me someone else instead. He's taking your side of the bed. I got me someone else instead. He's taking your side of the bed. Nights with your old friends.
돌아야 빨리. 아,
아 내가 돌아야 된다고?
그럼 돌아야 돼. 다시 간다. 우리 여기 중앙관 자리다.
Nights with your old friends. No, you don't believe him. Staying at the bar till 2, then you stumble home all alone.
This is how we fucking ride.
Then throughout the middle, it just straight up became walking. And I understand, when you're on the move, when you're traveling, you sort of get in your own head, and when you're just talking with your friend, like, you forget to do things. You forget to get the B-roll of the city, and you just only film the person. That happens. And so I think that's the only thing Jungkook would need to actually work on, is getting more B-roll.
But you gotta be there for me too. Boy, I'm holding on to something. Won't let go of you for nothing. I'm running, running just to keep my hands on you. There was a time that I was so blue. What I got to do to show you? I'm running, running just to keep my hands on you. Running, running just to keep
돌아야 빨리. 아 이거.
아 내가 돌아야 된다고?
그럼 돌아야 돼. 다시 간다. 우리 여기 중앙 시작이다.
Like,
Yeah.
that.
I wanna recording.
Yeah.
Recording what?
Like a video.
Sky. He wanna get some videos on
Yeah.
people.
Everything.
Videos on
Yeah.
people.
Everything.